You may have heard the phrase primary source before, maybe in a history class. And yes, an important type of primary source is a historical primary source, something from a time period being studied. But what counts as a primary source will vary based on the field and even the topic you're working on. A general definition of a primary source is something created by someone with first-hand knowledge of the thing being studied. So a primary source for my history class may be a newspaper article or op-ed from a time period being studied about the issue that I'm studying. In the sciences, many scholarly articles are considered primary because they're published research results written and shared by the people who directly did that research. In engineering, you may use standards, codes, and patents as primary sources because other sources will be referencing and building upon these things. In literature and art history, often the primary source is the work that you are studying. After all, it was created by someone with first-hand knowledge of the work. How you use primary sources will vary based on the field and your topic. And often you'll use other secondary sources to analyze a primary source in some depth. Sometimes you'll use the primary source to provide evidence in details that you find or in data that you're making about a claim. But primary sources can be difficult to completely define because it is so contextual. Almost anything can be used in a primary source depending on your topic if it's something that you are studying directly. If I'm studying how young Indigenous water protectors use social media, this tweet would be a great primary source. If I were doing research on how different scholars have studied the cult movie status of Rocky Horror Picture Show, this academic article would be a primary source. Many primary sources you find and use will be within library databases or digitized archival collections. But because a primary source isn't so much one thing as it is how you think about it and what you do with the thing, they can be found almost anywhere. Don't hesitate to reach out to your librarian for work identifying and using primary sources in your paper.